Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with a stepped up emergency card kit video. We are stretching the sketch from kit 55 and making two interactive cards, a Dancin Yeti and a shaker. We're going to quickly flip through this kit, but if you've already seen this, you can skip ahead using the timestamps. The first 4 pages are linked for free here on YouTube. There are 2 pages of circle sentiments and then some rectangle sentiments and our card sketch. So in the sketch today, we are going to add some circles right here, and we're going to add that Dancin Yeti. Then we will rotate it and cut those triangles out of a horizontal card and put a shaker through the middle. There are additional free pages if you download it from my Patreon. I'll link Patreon below and my little video tutorial that shows you how to join and join for free. There are 4 sets of strip sentiments. The circles and rectangles are available with a black background. There are 4 digital ephemera pieces that I have repeated on here. They fit perfectly in that 1 3/4 inch circle. And then there's a bunch of pages of digital paper. There's one that is horizontal and one that is vertical with a birthday background text. They're all sweet birthday sentiments and plenty of room for both orientations of cards. So we have pink, purple, blue, teal, because hashtag Team Teal. Let me know what team you're on. Green and orange. And then my favorite, I think, is this rainbow. There are tons of additional pages for the paid members of my Patreon. So at that $2 tier, you get a bigger happy birthday. It is 3/8 of an inch instead of a 1/4 inch. So if you're looking for a bigger font, that works really well. And then I have that birthday background text in a rainbow of colors, and it fills an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. At the $5 tier, you'll get all of those strip sentiments with a black background and white text. Again, here you get the bigger sentiments. So if you're looking for a larger font, this is a really great way to do that. Then that birthday background whole page comes in not just the rainbow of colors, but a trio of shades for each of them. So I have a light, medium, and dark in the pink, and then again, a light, medium, and dark in that purple. We're going to use the purple today, but we'll use the one from the free version on Patreon that comes in the PDF there. I want to make sure that you're getting inspiration that you can use without spending any money, if that's what works best for you. We have blue and teal in that trio. Here's the green. This was a surprise for me. I really kind of like this shade of green, and as it gets darker, it's just sort of rich and beautiful. It'll be great for masculine cards. And then we have our orange as well in that trio of colors. The darkest one is almost like a burnt umber. At the $12 tier, you get 16 different digital images, and one of the pages, I've removed that circle, and then the birthday background text in an ombre of colors, and I love this so much. It is so beautiful. I have a $25 tier that gets all of these things, but then also all of them in a resizable PNG image file and a searchable Excel spreadsheet with all of our sentiments. We're also going to grab a couple of sentiments from an old kit that I will link below. It is the birthday sub sentiments kit. Okay, so here is our card sketch, and we're really going to follow it at the beginning. I'm using this sprinkled confetti better press plate. If you don't have a better press system, but you do have a hot foil system, I love how these hot foil, right? All my better press plates, hot foil better than my hot foil plates. Sorry, hot foil plates. But I am just going to press this with some white shimmer ink. It's going to be super subtle. I have just taped my panel to the clear plate that goes on top, and I'll run it through one time. And I'm going to try to hold this up so you can see it. There's tons of texture, but there's also a really subtle shimmer in there, and I love it. This could get busy if I put too much on that background, so I didn't. There are measurements on the card sketch to tell you how to cut this angle, but I don't have time for that. So I'm winging it. I eyeballed the first one, and then I will rotate that triangle and just temporarily adhere it to the bottom corner. And that way they're the same size and they match. You could create the card sketch by either laying down the triangles or laying down the leftover panel. We're going to use the panel today, but I will save the triangles for another card. They are beautiful. I'm just saying. I am going to glue this with some wet glue. This funky angle, because there is a flat part on both the top and bottom. Every now and then, I have a hard time lining that up. So I like to keep that on there. So this page, again, free on Patreon, and I am using my circle dies from Spellbinders to cut out a 3¾ inch circle. Then I have my big fluffy blending brush. This is the size of the palm of my hand because I'm using a medium ink, but I want a light application. If you're not comfortable ink blending, use a lighter ink, but this is faster. And because I have these big fluffy brushes, I feel like I'm in control and I'm not going to leave big splotchy marks on it. I will set that aside for later. Now it is time to assemble Rocky, the Dancin Yeti. This guy is so cute, you guys. Because he's dancing, I am stacking up his legs a couple of times. The heavier they are, the better they will swing. I had a subscriber mention that putting something like packing tape on the back to make it really slick also helps. I didn't do it this time, but I've tried it before and it seemed to work pretty well. Please note, I just put his hands on the bottom of his legs. I'm going to figure that out in a little bit, but I don't think it looks awful. You certainly could do that. It's just that then you're missing the hands for later. The largest white piece is his head and body, and there are little debossed details that show you exactly where to line up his face and his belly. There is a little hole for his belly button and then like a little X in the middle. It is the cutest thing. It's so darn cute. I am going to insert the eyes. It's a single piece and there's two little like dot cutouts that creates that really cute sort of reflective element and the pupil. And I love this. Our Yeti comes with all kinds of accessories, including this scarf. I just put glue on the back of the biggest piece and I'm going to realize I wasn't very careful when I put sort of the fringe piece on there and it was peeking up a little too high. So I just used my scissors and chopped that off and I will wrap that around his neck. You can leave it off. There are no debossed details for that. So you wouldn't need to hide those by adding the scarf. Here, I chopped the hands off the legs. Oh my gosh, you guys. And then I will add one more layer to the legs with the feet that are supposed to go there. I typically stack mine up about 3 high with 100-pound cardstock. Mine's 4 high this time, and I'm going to have to double up my foam tape. But I think it works out really well. He actually swings better than almost any other dancing critter I've ever put together. So maybe 4 is the way to go. I am putting a little bit of glue on his horns and his hat. For the hat, I like to put it on the base of the hat and then pick up the other pieces with the wax tip of my pokey tool. But for things like the horns, I like to leave them on my desk and then lay the Yeti onto the glue. I have a better sense of where they're going to end up, make sure my spacing looks pretty good. The hat's going to go right on top between his horns. You guys, I seriously can't get over it. He comes with tons of accessories too. Like there's a birthday hat and there's a flower. I mean, just darling. The present I actually took from the Gnome Drive holiday. It's the base Gnome Drive set, but I pulled the bow from the Yeti set. So you could certainly cut your own present, but I had the die set, so I figured why not? I lost the footage where I added my 3¾ inch text background circle onto a 4-inch purple circle, but I'm pretty sure you've got that figured out. I have not glued it to the background because I want to make sure I'm putting enough of it onto the card panel that the Yeti fits without hanging off the edge. I want him to be able to fit into an envelope. So once I get that kind of all figured out, I'm going to pull the body up and there's a little hole for the legs. That's how he dances. I'm going to fill that in. That will help me later when I go to put the Yeti back. Then I'm going to put tape on the body and the legs and pick them up as a single piece. Then I will trace the hole from the legs on the back of the body. I'm going to set my pieces carefully to the side, and then I'm going to bring in just a little Post-it note. I want to mark where this circle overhangs the card so that when I'm adding glue to add this onto it, I don't have a ton of glue hanging over and I can get this put back where it needs to go. You could also use your sticky mat for this, but I couldn't find it. So I used a Post-it note. I'm just going to line that up, and then once everything is secure, I can flip it over and cut off the excess. I'm going to forget to do that until nearly the end, but it would have been easier here than after I have my Yeti and all of the extra dimension on there. He has 2 arms, and I'm going to put one of them up in the air holding that present, and so I want it right at the shoulder joint, like at the top towards where the scarf is, and then the other one is hanging down a little bit. Then I'll flip him over and I can start adding my foam. I'm using some foam pieces I've had in my stash for a long time. These little pieces fit perfectly in the Dancin die, right in that hole. I want to make sure that whatever foam I'm using, there's plenty of room for it to wiggle. I'm also doubling these up. So ultimately I have about 3 millimeters of foam. You don't need a circle or a hexagon to make him dance just fine. Any foam will work, right, as long as it has room. As I add these to the back of my Yeti, I'm making sure there's plenty of room for those legs to swing. I've peeled off all the backing. I'm going to hold the legs where they go and tape them to the body to make sure the legs don't end up accidentally underneath the foam and then adhere to the background. I'm making sure he's totally inside that A2 panel, and then I can take my tape off, make sure his legs dance. He looks so good. I can tell already he's swinging better than any that I've ever made before. I have one more of those doubled up foam pieces, and I'm going to stick that behind my present so that it is the same height as the hand. Otherwise, it's going to be sort of leaning down into the card. A little glue so I have some wiggle room, and it's going to overlap the hand just a touch too, and I'll flip the whole thing over and trim off the rest of that circle. Again, that would have been a little easier if I'd done it before I put the Yeti on it. These are the sweet birthday sentiments in that larger font, and I am just going to trim this down. I had one I had already trimmed apart using the tick marks, but I'll show you trimming them apart in the second card in case you haven't seen that before. The strips have tick marks that make them really easy to cut apart, so it doesn't matter that they're 3/8 of an inch, but then my matting layer is a 1/2 inch, which is super easy to cut. I just have a leftover strip, and I line it up so I have an equal margin on the top, bottom, and left. And then I can just trim off the right-hand side until it matches. This is the birthday sub-sentiments kit that came out last June, I think. And I will just link this kit. It's the whole kit for this one is free on YouTube, and I'll link it in the description box below. All I ask is that if you're going to use my freebies, please subscribe to my channel. It helps YouTube to recommend me to more people, and I'm on a mission to make card making more affordable for everyone. This one is an inside sentiment with a quirky font as well. It says, "To my favorite human," which I thought was perfect for the Yeti, and I will just trim that off the same way I did the first one. I'm going to go ahead and add my teal panel with my Yeti to a top folding card base. It doesn't matter which way it folds, whatever you like better. And then I like to add my sentiments with removable adhesive so that if I change my mind later, I can use this card for any occasion. So I have actually cut a purple strip that's slightly smaller, and I'm going to put that behind the happy birthday because I want to pop this up on foam. But if I add the foam tape to the sentiment directly, then that gets really difficult to replace. I am trimming this down. I'm using Parablossom Press's World's Best Foam Tape. Did you know you can get this at scrapbook.com now? They carry the lights and the foam. The foam's amazing. It's repositionable for 30 minutes. I thought I had my placing perfect here, but you'll see in a moment that I'm a little off. I'm also adding my inside with removable adhesive in case it's not appropriate. Somebody doesn't have a sense of humor, but I will link my favorite below. It's not actually Elmer's, but I can't remember the brand right now. So once that's done, I'm testing my card and I'm making him dance, but his foot is catching on that happy birthday. It's always something you have to be aware of as you place sentiments, and you can see the sentiment will peel right off because of that removable adhesive, but the foam also peels right off because I'm within my 30 minutes. So I peeled that off, I dropped it down a little bit lower, and it's going to be perfect. In fact, I'm going to like fiddle with it because I don't want it quite that low, but I do want to make sure that my Yeti isn't going to run into him. It's good to note too that once you set that card aside, I think it's 24 hours, the adhesive on that foam tape becomes permanent. So not a problem down the road. And you can see his legs are dancing beautifully. I am going to tip him too, so you can get like the full Dancin effect, but I can't usually get them to shake without tipping them all the way. And so I was so excited about this one, right? I can replace the sentiment down the road. Emergency card, done. We can go ahead and move on to card number 2 now. And we're going to use the Abstract Scratch Background Stamp from Trinity Stamps. I already have it on my Misti, and I'm going to lay some gray cardstock onto the stamp because it's just exactly 5.5 inches. Then I'll add some removable adhesive onto my cardstock, flip the whole thing over so that it adheres to my foam pad, which you can see is taped into my Misti so it doesn't move. And we're going to heat emboss this panel. So I treated it with a little anti-static powder, and then I stamped this twice. I will peel this up and add some silver embossing powder. I love this background so much. It is truly a struggle for me to not use it in every other video where I'm pulling out Trinity Stamps products, because it's just, I have a section in my drawer of Trinity that is for favorites, and there's only like 5 or 6 products in there at a time, but this one never leaves, ever, ever, ever. I love it. So I will heat set this, and I have this little clipboard just so I don't burn my hands and to keep the paper from warping too badly. I like to start in one corner and then very methodically move through the paper so I don't miss anything. And then once everything is heat set, I will give it just a second to cool off, and I will use my fingers and gently sort of tap all over that paper and make sure there isn't any powder that needs to be heated up again. I'm going to do the same thing on this card as the last one, but I'm going to pull those triangles off the top and bottom of a landscape card instead of a portrait card. And you guys, I have a bonus card for you at the end. It was such a surprise. I'm so excited to show it to you. Okay. I apologize for all of the gray here. I'm going to pull a black background at some point and make it a little easier to see that. But we're going to create a shaker out of this panel. I'm using the Trinity Stamps double-sided adhesive tape. It's perfect for an application like this. And sometimes with double-sided tapes, I have a hard time like using my thumb to hold it and tear it. This is so easy to tear, and so I love that. I have a little piece of packaging that I'm recycling, and it's a little bit bigger all the way around, about a 1/2 inch bigger on each side. I'm starting by removing the backing paper from 2 of the sides, and you'll see we have this like small corner, right? It's not a very sharp angle, but on each of these, I am just letting the acetate, it's not very thick, sort of fold into the middle. Okay, I will trim away the excess in a little bit, but I feel like I get a tighter fit when I do this. Then once I have those little extra pieces trimmed off, and I'm careful here not to cut too close. I don't want to create like a hole in the corner of my shaker where little bits can fall out. Then I can pick out my sprinkle mix, and we're going to grab some beautiful options from Trinity. We're starting with white sparkle spots. These are unique. I have never seen anything like them from any other shop. They're slightly translucent and they come in tons of colors. Then I'm adding about the same amount of Poolside, which is like a pool colored circle confetti. And then the shimmer snowflakes that are so gorgeous. I added about the same amount of snowflakes as the other 2 combined, because we're making a winter themed card with lots of snowflakes. I like my snow made out of confetti and paper and not, in person and cold. I removed the backing paper on that last side, and then I sealed everything up by laying the acetate into it and trimming off the excess. For a sentiment, we're pulling one of my other all-time favorites. This is the Celebrate Cut and Foil. It is huge. So there's a die that cuts Celebrate. There's a hot foil plate in the exact same size that says Celebrate, and then a shadow die that will cut out both of them. These cut and foils with the large sentiments also come in a thanks, a hello, joy. I think maybe there's a spooky. And friends, these have been on the sale list for a while. They only put stuff on sale if it's overstock or if they are retiring it. I hope they're not retiring them. But I love this so much. It fills an entire card. It's really quick and easy. The sentiment, right? What you're trying to say to somebody becomes the focal point of the card. So I have stacked this up. It's actually 3 deep. I already had 2 stacked together that were already in the back of my pocket. And then I'm adding Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I like this for gluing onto acetate. I went very sparingly. These are pretty thick in some places, and so I really wasn't worried about anything oozing out. As an additional snowy accent, I have 2 of the snowflakes from the Snowflake Trio that I have cut from some white glitter cardstock, and I am just adding little dots of glue all over the back of this. I'm not gonna lie, this took a while because I didn't want any of those little pieces peeling up. If I had this to do again, I would use rip and stick sheet or some double-sided adhesive sheet behind them so that they would just be like stickers and I could lay them straight onto the acetate. But next time, I wasn't recutting glitter cardstock. I want these to sort of nestle into that celebrate word. So I'll start with the two biggest ones and then I'll add accents from the smaller ones. Here, I'm going to put it on the bottom, and in the end, I'm going to end up trimming off the leftovers from these snowflakes so I can repurpose some of those leftovers, but I also am trying to be careful to not press down too firmly on the very edges yet. That glue is going to stay tacky for a little bit, and I don't want to accidentally cut the acetate when I'm trimming these off. So that will give me a little bit of wiggle room there. Here's my fourth one, and I'm going to add this right over on the corner. I'm going to trim things off before I add any more, but I really do want an odd number. I think it's just a little more visually appealing, and I feel like that top right has some empty space that we could fill. So again, you can see I'm trimming very carefully, and I'm sort of pulling the snowflake ever so slightly away from the card as I'm cutting, and then I have pressed firmly on the snowflakes to make sure they're fully adhered before I move on to this last bit. This was the leftover from the snowflake that's right next to it, just to the right of it. I'm only going to put a little bit. I don't want it to feel like that particular snowflake is repeating right next to itself. And then once again, I will trim the excess away very carefully. So here is our little shaker pouch. My friends, I was tempted to just make like a wonky shaped card. I haven't ever done that before, and I think it would be a lot of fun. But instead, we'll add this onto an A2 card panel. I added another layer of that double-sided adhesive tape, the rip and stick tape from Trinity, on top of the acetate that's on the edges, just to help give it some immediate grab because the glue will take longer to grab on those slick surfaces. And then I will lay that onto my card base. I have the glue there too, just for a little wiggle room in case I didn't get it placed perfectly the first time. I'm going to add this onto a top folding A2 card, and I'm using plenty of glue. I want some wiggle room. I don't have room to trim anything off because there is acetate from our shaker on all four sides. So I checked the size of the card base before I started gluing. Then I'm coming back to my sweet birthday sub-sentiments. These are the white text on black. They aren't in the free kit, but they're available at the $5 kit. And you certainly could use the other ones, the black text on white instead for this. I just want this tiny little wish big. Once I get that trimmed out, I'm going to use my black marker and go around the edges so it looks like this was white printed on black cardstock instead of white cardstock with like black printing on top. I have a little bit of black cardstock that I'm going to layer up behind this because I thought at first I was going to add just the wish big to the card, but I didn't like it in the end. So I would probably skip this bit if I was going to do it again. But a lot of times with these reverse sentiments, I don't add a matting layer. I just give it a little bit of extra gravitas, I don't know, a little extra weight by stacking it up. That sentiment is a 1/4 inch. So I grabbed the dies that I designed for Trinity. These are the Emergency Card Essentials #1. There's a 3/8 inch strip in there that I designed specifically for this purpose. And I have trimmed off the end. There is just a little bit of like deboss detail on the ends. And since it wasn't going to end up on both the left and right side, I wanted a clean cut there. I will line it up top, bottom, and left with the same margin and just trim until everything is even. Then I'm going to use the birthday sub-sentiments again for this one, and I'm just lining up the tick marks in my trimmer. I love this so much. It says, "You still look 25 from a distance." I am a sassy girl. You would not need to add a sassy sub-sentiment. There are some sweet sub-sentiments in that kit as well. If you don't have it already, go ahead and grab that. It's just linked in the description box below. I, again, line it up on the 3 sides, trim it off on the 4th side until everything looks good. I will say that sometimes I trim a slightly smaller margin with this die because there is that little deboss detail. And I feel like then I don't know, it looks fancier than what I can do by hand. So I've added a little glue on that Wish Big. I'll use my tweezers because he's very small, but I will say my tweezers took just a little bit of the toner off of my sentiment. Off camera, as I'm going to take photos and realizing that that happened, I will tap my black alcohol marker onto it just to fill that in. Then I glued my sassy sub-sentiment to the inside because it was past my bedtime and I forgot to put it on there with removable adhesive, but that's fine. I have plenty of sassy people in my life who will love that. Here's the bonus card. I didn't make this. Christina Holloman sent this to me, and I didn't even open this until after I'd made the first video for this kit. But look at how this sketch looks very similar to what we have. It goes all the way to the corners, but there's these two pieces of pattern paper, and you could just stack them on top of each other to cut the corners off to make sure they're even. I think that would make things really easy. Friends, I hope you're inspired here. Try to stretch the sketch. Use the supplies you have. And if you're interested in the free kits, check the description box below the video. Just subscribe to my channel and you can download the free versions there, or you can head on over to my Patreon for the upgraded version of Kit 55. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.